This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
Pano, what do we get from the team negative? We get the case like empowerment, job creation, inclusivity. Whereas Pano, I wonder myself, have they listened to our first speech when they come and talk of empowerment? Yet my first speech narrated it clearly that we have done each and everything through parish development models, new curriculum we have introduced to schools, vocational schools, and they again talk about empowerment. Then that point of their empowerment, it's not working anywhere because the government has done each and everything and it has totally failed. What are we going to do? We are saying that let's reduce on the age and make it 45 as it was in the first case of mine. Then we solve this problem of unemployment, of saying that we do empowerment, yet we have been doing empowerment and totally failed. Then they come here with a point of job creation. How can you talk of job creation, yet we are saying that it's in the same of hours, whereas you come here and complain that we have introduced parish development model for 2 years. Unemployment is still going on. Though it has been there for 2 years, but we believe that unemployment is still going on because we see that according to the statistics given by my first speaker, the most people, youth, are not employed. Then we believe that these youth are still having more years. Whereas you complain that we have just introduced it 2 years later, we see that people still have, so there is no job creation unless we reduce on the time. Then they are bringing inclusivity as from their first speech. We have been including the public in the government strategies, but all of a sudden they have failed, and that's why we are reducing on the age limit. They come here and they say, from their second speech, they say that for us, they are not specifying, but it's in the same speech of theirs, we hear that they are creating classes of...
Point of information, Honorable.
Let me drive my point home. That there is illiterate people and literate people. What are we saying? The reason as to why we still have illiterate people is that though the government have provided UPE schools, people that are illiterate have failed totally to go to those schools because of unemployment. And that's why we come with points like, if at all we had reduced this age to 45 maybe, people would be able to attain jobs, and then they pay their schools, and there would be no, and for this case we are not catering for any illiteracy. My dear panel, what are we saying? We shall take this debate even on the stakeholder, and I saw the stakeholders on this. We shall see that the government, the unemployed and the people retiring, it is very clear that we say that people gaining the unemployed people, what are we going to do? The unemployed people, they are going to get jobs, of course. They will pay the government tax because someone cannot pay the government tax when he's unemployed. And in the first place, I believe the youth paying the money, they will pay the tax. The government will be gaining, the youth will be gaining, there will be no employment. And what is the end result? We are not leaving these people retiring. We shall not leave them totally. That's why we say that we are going to be giving them the pension. And you will find that all classes are gaining. Instead of saying that we leave these people in offices, let's reduce the age to 45. My dear panel, in the first place, let me compare you the two words and see. In our word, we are saying a person, we asked them a question. It was very clear. What is the standard age of someone finishing education? They did not give us a clear answer, but what is our standard age? My second speech comes in at an age of 22 and 28. Why? We are setting a strategy. When someone leaves a campus at the age of 28, by the time one retires at 45, this man will have already gained something. And what are we saying? Let me compare you the two words. In our word, we are saying someone will leave office at 45. It still goes on and have pension and the retirement fee. And in their case, they are saying we should leave, generally they are trying to tell us that we should leave this youth and it remains in their unemployment. And my dear pan, what's the practical part of it? We are saying that our case, it's more of practical than theoretical. Because if you see our systematic gender, someone leaving the office at 45, another one is getting an employment opportunity, and the whole world is in a systematic era. But what are they saying in their word? They are saying that we should, whereas they come here with points of empowerment. How can you say that you are empowering someone when someone is almost 90 years in an office and you're leaving someone here? My dear panel, basing on the strategies that I have given and the cases and our points left unrebutted, I rest my case.
So panel, in a bid to fight unemployment, the retirement age should be reduced. Now, in the early 19th century, if you made a speech about education, that guys go to school, maybe at 45 you're going to retire and get pension, you'd be a hero. Probably you'd win an election. But then go to streets of Kampala and Kigali or Nairobi and see how many youths are unemployed after having their graduate degrees. Then you'll notice that it is not about what they are telling us, but then there's some sort of empowerment that we need. Now, if it is about job creation, we think the only thing that we need to start a business is capital. the only way we get this is the microfinance initiatives that we tell you from Side Negative. We think that is sort of the employment that we need for people to get on ground and like get to start businesses. This is a way how someone can get to start a business and then go ahead and even employ others. But then the model they tell us is, eliminate 2 old men from jobs and get 2 young men working. That is no progress, and clearly we do not solve anything. But then again, we think that according to the book of A Bottom Billion by Paul Collier, where he tells us that people are poor because they are poor. People are poor because they are like stuck in a vicious cycle where they cannot really get resources, where they cannot get the capital to like help them out of the vicious cycle they're already trapped in. That then again leads us to the point of why people are poor. They tell us that, there are people who are still illiterate, and these people still sort of exist. As long as the law of averages exists, and some people are at the top and others at the bottom, we think then their model is not the best in this debate, because we sort of do inclusivity, something they do not really tackle even when they mention it in all their speeches. We think that the people who cannot afford a decent education, the people who cannot afford to start up their own businesses or have like a lot of things they can inherit from their parents, these are people we sort of empower and get to work. These are people who can like start businesses and even employ others. But then again, they question us on group loans and all that. We think that group loans is a sort of soft loans that we were telling you from our first speech. Albert clearly told you about microfinance initiatives, and they work on 5 C's: capital, capacity, collateral condition, and character. What then that means is that people who are not having like big mansions or all to stake as collateral, these are people who have finished campus, 28 or 25, regardless, these are people who are just young and they have 0 on their bank accounts. But then you're giving them the sort of empowerment they need to start off. But then again, we feel that all they are telling us about, get these old men out of office is simply a farce, which they tell us to like create a blame game about who has caused unemployment, yet really are they solving the problem of unemployment, which can only and only be solved by creating jobs. Which house then achieves the sort of creation of jobs that we want? Now, clearly, I want us to look at an analogy where they tell us that this is someone who has like gone to school for 25 to 30 years, right? But then afterwards, this is a guy who needs to like work for 15 years and provide for their kids. Trust me, by the time this guy is like 45, they'll have a kid who is 20 or a kid who is 15, and they need to go to school, and you're promising them pension. Clearly, that is not progress. You're actually promising them misery after working for 15 years. It is actually ironical that I can go to school for 30 years and you promise me to work for 15 years. Clearly, that is like very treasonous against a country like Uganda. But then again, we think that the only way how we can like apply knowledge, because this is 21st century and we're like in an information-based economy, we think that the only way we can like get this sort is when we get like the biggest number of people, the youth, like to get their brains on ground and do practical work. Now, clearly, let's get to pragmatics and see how things work. We think that the sort of retirement age they're trying to create around to tell us that, these are people who are like 60 and still in office. We think these people can like keep in office, but then the young people can sort of get jobs, can sort of become CEOs in their own companies, and even grow up to more than 60 and afford a mansion or a Porsche or things like that. But then in that sort of world, they sort of try to like get the people out and not provide for enough money for them, but then B, not even solve the problem of unemployment, because clearly there's no job creation in their side of the house. But then again, we think it is very detrimental when they like reduce the age to 45, because these people who are even already working are then going to suffer a lot. And then we think that the best way we can like get our countries like Uganda, Zimbabwe, which are like in sub-Saharan Africa, the countries that have the biggest number of youth, under the poverty line, or the biggest number of youth being unemployed, the only way we can do that is by creating microfinance initiatives, which can like sort of help people to create jobs and solve unemployment.
This is the High School Crossfire. We'll be back in a minute.